Welcome to the Soul Health Mentor podcast. I'm Nadia Shana Kraus, author of From Dreaming to Done and founder of Soul Health Mentor and Company. Here we bring the human and the soul together. We talk about finishing the dream your soul has never let go of through embodiment, clarity, and wholeness, because we are souls having a human experience, not in exchange for, but in inclusion of. This is the Soul Health Mentor way. Welcome back to the Soul Health Mentor podcast. I'm Nadia, your host and author from Dreaming to Done. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to Hal Eisenberg. He embodies a journey full of transformative power, passion, purpose, and spiritual awakening. As a visionary educator, social worker, author, and founder of both the Eisenberg Leadership Academy and Windows of Opportunity, Hal has dedicated his life to elevating consciousness and empowering others to discover their highest potential. Welcome, Hal. It's so wonderful to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Nadia. It's so great to see you again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do so many things. I wanted to let the listeners know that Hal also wrote a book. So he's an author as well, and his book is called The Whispers in the Rain: 48 Lessons on the Roadmap to Love and Enlightenment. I'm really, really looking forward to having a conversation about love and enlightenment. So I have some questions that I've prepped for you because I'm just curious. I'm really curious about leadership, right? Because you have a leadership
Mm.
academy and windows of
Yeah.
opportunity. And in my book, From Dreaming to Done, I speak about self-leadership. So I think there's these two components. So I wanted to ask you, what would you say if I ask you, and I'm super curious to hear, how has love guided you into your purpose?
Oh, wow. It's such a great question. Right off the bat, we're going to hit a home run. Okay. Uh, yeah, I think my entire journey has been this journey into really trying to understand what love is and what love is about. And some of it probably came from childhood wounds. Some of it came from trying to figure out the pain that I was experiencing and some of the extreme loss, and the abuse that I had as a childhood. And, fast forward, trying to, build into or step into society's definition of what love should be. And in that journey, what I really found out is that love is this energy that's inside of you. It's inside each and every one of us. And it's the driving force that um makes everything on this planet possible, and it just heightens. It's in everything. It's in every moment, in every living object. There's love everywhere, right? So it has transmuted into becoming who I am, and it's just there in everything I do, whether it's leadership or writing a book or, speaking on a podcast with you. Like I'm present with this loving energy and just wanted to be here to share with you and the listeners.
I love that. And what I hear is that it was a journey, it was an exploration. It was also a journey maybe through some pain, the places where there isn't any love. And I think what's really important to let the listeners know is that it's not love in the romantic sense, right? It's not love between a man and a woman. It's this universal love. And I say that because we live on a planet where, unfortunately, relationships can be very conditional, right? Their unconditional love is not always something that we find in a relationship. That was my journey. If when
Yeah.
when I think about it, that was my journey. How love led me to my purpose was really discerning those places where love had left the table in a relationship and where things became conditional. Because I used to be a huge people pleaser. And when you're a huge people pleaser and there's codependency and enmeshment involved in a relationship, it's actually when love leaves the table. That's my experience of it. Does that make sense to you when I say it like that?
It does make sense to me. And as you were sharing that, Nadia, I think one of the things that I would love to stress to the listeners also is that when we talk about love in relationships, it's sometimes not that love isn't there or it's not unconditional. I think everybody is in a different place on their journey. And what love is a mirror. So when you're in a relationship, whatever your experience is in that relationship, whether it's, a painful moment or a loving moment, it's really mirroring who you are. Even when you're like, let's take it to the extreme. I've learned madly in love with this person, I'm madly in love with this person, and you're throwing all your love at that person. It's still a reflection of you. They're the recipient, but what they're mirroring is the love that's inside of you. Now, if you understand that, you can reverse it. It's like if there's something painful there and you're not receiving something you need in that relationship, or it's something that's hurting your soul, that's also a reflection, not, and we've come from a society that likes to, or has been conditioned to point the fingers. That person's not loving me. That person isn't being unconditionally loving. I'm giving more in that relationship. But really, what the question you should be maybe asking yourself is, what wound is showing up in this moment that I'm feeling this. They're actually giving you a loving gift, in their not being able to unconditionally love you, or not being able to give you what you think you need. They're giving you a gift to look inside of yourself to say, huh, where do I need to grow so that I don't have this experience or I don't have this pain? Because that's the reflection. It's the wound that is teaching you, not, and then we tend to be like, oh no, it's that person's fault. Get me out of this relationship. That to me is love. And that's when you can grab that concept, that's you loving yourself.
Hmm. Yes. Oh, I love that you brought
Does
this
that
in. My very first mentor, she literally taught me, yeah, the mirror. She taught me the mirror. And I had spent 5 minutes complaining about my partner and talking about all the things that my partner was doing. And she let me do my 5 minutes. And then she literally taught me this. She said, Nadia, now you've pointed the finger at your partner for 5 minutes and you have three fingers pointing back at you. So where is the field of resonance within you that, and I'm with Eric 30 years later. So I can talk about this now. It's funny now, but where is the resonance? Why does Eric rub you the wrong way? What is it showing you? So you literally, I love that you said that because I totally agree. And it brought me back to self-love because what was I doing, right? And that's where I mentioned people pleasing, codependency, enmeshment. That was my pattern. That was the part that I needed to learn how love is showing up for me, right? Like I call it a wake up call from love. It's messy, it hurts, it's not pleasant, but where's love trying to wake me up? To take care of myself, to not self sacrifice. And you also mentioned spiritual awakening in your work, right? So, what would
Yeah.
you say is spiritual awakening for you? And does it require courage? What do you think?
It's interesting because the two are almost connected. Whispers in the Rain is partially, it came from two wound entry points that were mirroring me. And one of those wound entry points was this amazing, beautiful, higher consciousness, spiritual, loving relationship that I got to experience. I had met the woman of my dreams, and to this day, I still think she's the woman of my dreams, right? However, circumstances and life had to take us on two separate paths, so we're not together. But in that pain, I really had to go deep inside, and and I had to look at what wound was showing up. And one of the wounds that was showing up was this um, being attached to a specific outcome,
Hmm.
right? Or not loving myself enough to trust that love is just love and it doesn't have to look a certain way, and to be completely unconditionally loving and just, bless the moments and the experiences that you got to have, and then to release another soul to have the journey in the life in a way. So it's not about you. And that process helped me to spiritually awake, right? That process helped me. That took a lot of courage. I can speak to it now to you in a 5 minute, paragraph, but this was sleepless nights, 2.5 years of crying, breaking into tears while I'm driving. And, in between, I have this path that I drive every morning, and these beautiful trees that surround me in nature. And I feel spiritual energy around me, speaking to spirit on that path every day. Why me? Like, I just want it this way, right? And it's like, and spirit just holding me and saying, "Hey, you haven't gotten the lesson yet, Hal. You have to get the lesson," right? That helped me to awaken to this deeper concept of what love truly is, and who I truly was, that I was enough. Because part of that wound was that voice inside of me that was saying, "Oh my God, I couldn't hold on to this relationship. I'm being abandoned again," right? My childhood wounds. I was abandoned so many times when I was a child. Here it goes again, and even though I had done tons of soul work and tons of self-development work, that wound was still, that shadow was still coming up, and it needed to be embraced instead of pushed away like I learned how to do my whole life. It needed to be embraced. It needed to be loved. All the aspects of me needed to be held and hugged and said, "I love you, Hal. You're enough." It's not about the other person. The other person just gave you the most amazing gift in the world. Yes, she's not here anymore, but she gave you the gift to say and show you that you're enough no matter what. And that's love. That's spiritual awakening. That took tons and tons of courage for me to navigating and go through.
Yes, to let that person be themselves while you're being yourself and being true to yourself. That is such a
Yeah.
beautiful story. And that's your book, really, right? Your 48 lessons is
Yeah.
just one story after the other. And it feels like one story. It could be a story of love or a story of purpose or a story of awakening, all these
Yeah.
different things. And so you take the reader through this journey you were on. How long did you live life to be able to write that book? Because now it's so nice and neat, 48 lessons. But how long did these 48 left, like what lifespan is that?
Yeah, it's my entire life, and I won't go on record what my real age is, but I lie about my age all the time. I've got this whole story, Nadia, that I tell everybody, that I'm like, age is a state of mind, so I'm just gonna make up like whatever age I want to be.
There you go.
But it was my whole life, and there's no regrets in life, Nadia, but I almost regret giving it the subtitle of 48 lessons on the journey, because a lot of people think it's like step one is this, step two is this, step three
Mm,
is this. And it's not. One, life is not a linear path, and the journey to love and enlightenment is not a journey, is not a step one, step two, step three, path at all. It's more of that spiral, right? And I experienced this journey. The book is written from point A to point Z. I'm obsessed with numerology. I'm obsessed with spiritual numbers. I feel spirit speaks to me in numbers. My numbers are 44, 48, 88, 84. And it has been, my entire life, those numbers have been following me. Even the first time I thought I heard spirit voice, I was 8 years old,
Mm.
so like, it's been my whole life that I've been connected to those numbers. So when I sat down to pen this, and that's another story. When I sat down to pen this book, a book that I didn't want to write, but Spirit had another, another thing in mind. Um, I said, well, then it's got to have the number 48 in there somehow, or 44, because that's just who I am, right? Everything's got to be, that synergy and that alignment. Um, but it made a lot of people think there were 48 steps, and that, oh, I can just follow step one, step two, and it really isn't like that. If step six of lesson numbers, and I didn't title them as chapters, I titled them as lessons. So if lesson number six was preparing for whatever lessons were to come, listen, I could be on the journey to love and enlightenment. I could be really strong today, and there's another lesson that I don't see over the horizon coming, which is great. That's the beauty of this journey. It's the beauty of us having this human experience. I still have to prepare. So I'm back at lesson six, even though I experienced 48 today, even though I'm really present to who I am and I'm really present to having an enlightenment type of experience. Um, you know, there's no like I made it, it's about the whole journey, right? It's about um yeah, I always like the saying, I'm sure you've heard the saying before, Nani, we're humans having a human being having a spiritual experience, or a spiritual being having a human experience. I think we're a spiritual being having a spiritual experience, right? I think we limit ourselves by saying we're humans, but I think there's a lot more to this experience than we realize. And that's what I try to capture in the book.
Oh my goodness, you said so many golden nuggets. So I want to just reflect. I absolutely love that you actually shared with us that you're not entirely satisfied with the subtitle because of what happened. And it also shows us how society is conditioned. Society is conditioned from A to B. It starts in the school system, and you will understand this because you're an educator. And it's a very
Right.
linear type of thinking. So now we're trying to talk about love and purpose and spiritual awakening and all, and knowing who we are, and self-leadership, self-love. And here is this thought, okay, I'm just going to do lesson 1 to lesson 48 because that's how school works. And then you mention the spiral. And in my book, I speak about the soul map spiral. And what it is, it's just going deeper. And the soul map spiral is basically your soul starts lessons. That would be your language. Your soul starts lessons, and the lesson will finish when it finishes, right? It is what it is. It takes as long as it takes, and it spirals. And you're so right. It's you can be at the beginning, and then you go all the way to the end, and then the next lesson comes, and you're at the beginning again. So it just takes you
Yeah.
deeper and deeper and deeper. So I wanted to just reflect that I love that you talked about the spiral because I can totally relate.
When I read that part of your book, it resonated so much with me, because that relationship I was just sharing with you about, one of the first stories she had ever shared with me was about a dream she had had. And she had had this dream that um, was in fact a spiral, and within that dream, the spiral had unlocked all the secrets of the universe. And I took that as a metaphor, right? Because it was a metaphor for the journey that we're having here in
Hmm.
this experience. All the secrets of the universe are within us every day. The secrets of the universe are really simple. It's that journey of love and enlightenment, and just being present to it, and just being like, I'm here, I'm enough, and let me love this experience.
Hmm. Yes. Another thing you had mentioned earlier, which I wanted to reflect back, which I thought I know what you mean in the sense I've heard of the saying, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And for me, it's marrying the two. So it's not either or. I'm very, very grounded and pragmatic in my spirituality. And it's actually even hard for me when someone says, "Oh, you're so spiritual." I always get a little bit like, "What? What do you mean?" Because my standpoint is I have an incarnated soul. Like my soul incarnated in my body. So that's the part where soul having a human experience because my soul can think up dreams in an instant. Like I can have this
Mm,
inspiration and I wish I could snap my fingers, but then it has to go through this dense experience, right? This dense experience of like you can think about a delicious 5 course meal in a second. And to make that 5 course meal will take you 3 hours. That's
right,
how,
right,
right? So that's you have to go
right.
shopping, you have to cook, then you have to clean. It's so much. So that's for me is the experience of a spiritual being having a human experience. Being human is not always easy, right? Like feeling love in your heart and feeling purpose and feeling spiritual awakening, it feels beautiful and it fuels you. But then you also have the difficult feelings of being human, struggling, pain, wounds, conditioning, belief
Mm,
systems, grief,
yeah.
self-doubt. So I just wanted to say that everything is okay, right? That's also part of love. Everything is welcome here, and we can be messy humans and brilliant souls. We can we can be both. And would you say that your 48 lessons were things that your soul started and found completion? That's why you could write about it?
Yes and no. I don't know if I think completion is a misleading like notion. I don't know that I'm ever complete, right? Because we're always evolving and we're always elevating, right? And um but I do feel that I've been on this journey, right? This
Hmm.
soulful journey of through these lessons, and I've learning how to transmute these experiences into into being present to the idea that life is happening, for me and not to me, not being in the defensive. It's very easy to say, "Oh, thank you, universe, for this horrible experience." Like, what a blessing. Like, because when you're having the horrible experience, like you can't stop and say, like, "Yay! Yes, what a pleasure."
Yes.
Um, but essentially, in building the muscle and reflection, that's what this journey is about. It's being
Hmm.
like it's accepting the pain and the tough moments, and knowing that there's something deeper. There's a story behind that story, and the story is that it's happening for you so that you can grow. Yes,
Hmm.
it's hard, and yes, the human experience is tough and rough, and I don't want to diminish anybody's pain. Pain is a very real thing. It's being a social worker and working in the education system and working with so many souls that the universe has guided to me. Um, I hear some horrific stories out there that I'm just like, what is going
Hmm.
on, you know, you know, in this on our planet, what is going through some of the hearts of some of these souls that are doing these acts, and I know intuitively that this is their journey and it is their pain and perhaps their soul contract to teach us contrast because, to understand real love, you have to sometimes experience, real darkness,
Mhm.
you don't know light if you don't know dark. You don't know um you don't know feeling good if you haven't, known hurt, right?
Yes.
Um What's the song, the line in the I don't know if you ever seen the Broadway show Rent. The opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. It's one of my favorite quotes, right?
Yay.
Because war tears you down, but you don't know that you can create love and create things out of it if you didn't know that there were things to tear you down, right? Um, I don't know if that answers your question because I went
Yeah.
off on a tangent.
Yeah. No, it's good.
You know,
I've got all the nuggets, so I'm just going to reflect the nuggets. The first thing I went yay when you said the opposite of war, war is creation. I went yay because I literally just wrote the sentence, the opposite of trauma is feeling alive again. It's not the absence of pain,
mm,
it's feeling alive again. So I just wanted to start
yeah,
there. That was a beautiful nugget. And then I also wanted to start with the word completion because I'm German. So German is a very, very exacting language. And it's so interesting how you immediately to completion, we're never finished. Of course, we're never finished. We're always evolving and growing. And it's so funny how the English word completion isn't the same as the German word Vollendung. Vollendung is the German word for completion, and it's so exacting that the word actually means full ending. It just means closure in English. It just means
wow.
when you've learned a lesson, you've learned the lesson, you've gotten the nugget, and you have closure, you have full ending. It doesn't mean that your life ends. It doesn't mean that you stop growing. It just means that you have that beautiful energy of peace and closure. And I
Yeah,
learned my lesson. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen to you again. But once you've learned to choose love, it becomes easy. But when you're
yeah,
learning it, it's hard, right? When you're learning to
right.
choose love and to choose yourself. So that's just something I wanted to clarify, that it's so interesting how the English word can take you off on this tangent. It literally can take you off on this tangent.
Yeah.
And it's been my frustration as a German that the word isn't exacting. And I didn't even know it because in Germany, when I was living in Germany, I loved the English language and I was like romanticizing the English language, how it's so soft and so feminine, and I love it. And then I live in the country, and then I get frustrated because there's not exacting words for things.
Right, right, right. It's so interesting, and some words have such energy to it. I don't know where I've learned this, if this is something that I created or I learned along my spiritual path, but along with this idea of closure and things ending, a lot because I work with a lot of youth who really struggle when they cry, right? And they're crying and they have tears and they're going through experience. And I've been saying this for years. I really don't know where it came from. So I can't take credit for this if it wasn't me, but I always felt like crying was an energetic way for your soul to release the space that it needed to grow. It was ready to grow. It had that closure moment. It had that lesson, right? That completion of that moment, of that second, to release the completion so that you can go to the next stage of your elevation, it needed to be released from your body somehow. So it's released through tears, right?
Yes,
So people are like, "Oh, crying is so bad." But what if crying was actually a good thing? What if it was
yes,
symbolic of that completion so that
yes.
you can take the next step on your journey?
I love that you shared that. I really love that because it is a very biological occurrence. It's literally your nervous system releasing all the stress. It is a response of the nervous system. Even shaking is a response of the nervous system just releasing the stress. And that gives it that beautiful energy of completion, a full stop, right? Like done, done. This lesson is learned. We can move on to the next level. I love that
Yes.
you are the embodiment because that's really talking to you. And I want to bring it to a close with that because it's so, so beautiful how you are the embodiment of the teacher, but also the forever student. And how do you stay grounded in that? Did you make a conscious choice or is it just who you are?
Oh my God, it's such a fun. I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, wait, am I grounded? You know, it's a muscle you have to practice every day. There are days when I'm very grounded, I'm very focused, I'm very in the moment, and there are days where something will happen, a simple post, or I'll see a picture, or somebody walking, something will trigger me to knock me off that grounding. What I'm getting really great at is having the tools to catch it right away, and breathing and meditating and being present and go, huh, that's really interesting. My favorite question that I ask in the world now in all those moments is what's possible. It's on all my posts. It's my main hashtag that I use on my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is manifesting what's possible. I literally stop and I say, what's possible here? In anything. I feel pain. I'm crying. I'm not grounded. It's like, oh, I'm not grounded. What's possible here? I'm in a meeting with school administrators, and their philosophy is defying mine, and so I could be combative and I could be like, oh, this makes me mad, which I used to. There was a version of me in the past that was like that. But instead now I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, what's possible here? Is this my wound that needs to be healed? Can I take this conversation from another perspective? Do I need to release something for my growth? So that I that's kind of like what I do, like to stay grounded, but it's not always there. I got to be very, very conscious moment to moment to moment. But I love that because I see that now, and I feel so blessed that energetically I am present to that all these things are possible, and that I'm not perfect, and it's okay that I'm not perfect, and it's okay that our listeners aren't perfect, and it's okay that maybe it's not okay that you went through pain, but your pain can turn into purpose. Your wounds can become wisdom, right? And you just have to kind of go through the process and open yourself up to receive that message. And that's what Whispers in the Rain is about. That's what the journey, um, on love and enlightenment is all about, is really the journey back to you, to yourself. And I call it Whispers in the Rain. Well, there's metaphoric reasons and there's actual reasons. But it's being in the rain, the trauma, the pain, and listening for those whispers to be like, you're gonna be okay.
Hmm. Oh, what a beautiful note to end on. I love that you gave the listeners, you gave me, the listeners, you gave us a tool. What's possible here? Just take a moment, breathe. What's possible? Catch yourself. And I wanted to make sure that the listeners know where they can find you. You had mentioned LinkedIn. So, how do they find you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, you can look up Hal Eisenberg. It's also LinkedIn slash whatever that
Hmm.
IN that gets thrown into the manifesting what's possible is the URL there. I'm on Instagram at Hal Eisenberg, Hal underscore Eisenberg 88. There's the 88 again. Facebook is Hal 88. And then Eisenberg leadership at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm open conversations, and you can learn more about haleisenberg.com. Also, you can learn about all the education and the upcoming books, the upcoming education book that's coming out. I'm speaking in LA. Lots of really great, beautiful things happening.
Awesome. And you also have two podcasts, right?
Yes, yes. I have a podcast called Transforming Education, which is designed to support teachers, administrators, and parents in the education system to learn better ways to deal with the challenges in education. And then I have Conversations with Beautiful Souls, which you are going to be a guest on. I'm inviting you officially.
Yay.
I have I have these elongated conversations with so many people doing so many beautiful things in the world. And, so we share Conversations with Beautiful Souls is actually based on my original book series, which was called Beautiful Souls. It was a four-part book series that's actually coming out. It's being re-released with new material, and it's actually going to be attached to some some live music tracks. So as a free gift for people. So that I'm really excited about that. Beautiful Souls was written from my pain, though. Was written before kind of like a prequel to the spiritual journey. And Whispers of the Rain was written from my healing,
Beautiful.
so really, really interesting. Yeah, it captures the
Yay.
whole path.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much. This was such a meaningful conversation, and I really, really enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you, Hel, for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being here. If something in this conversation stirred your body, whispered to your heart, or woke up a dream you've been carrying, that's not random, that's resonance. If you want to walk this path with me and join a community of grounded visionaries learning to finish what their soul began, download your Soul Map gift by visiting soulhealthmentor.com and clicking on the book icon. And if you loved this episode, share it with someone whose dream deserves to be finished, or write a review of your experience on Apple Podcasts or Amazon Music. Here we root and rise together, one completed dream at a time.